ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once more to the Financial Times headquarters for the latest in our PWM expert series of videos made in conjunction with BNP Paribas. Now with my guest, Jacky Prudhomme, now we will discuss future developments in ESG investing. In the future, Jacky, do you expect ESG criteria to become more important in emerging markets as well? I mean, it can be more difficult to adhere to those criteria there. For instance, there might be countries that there's sanctions against, and we've seen sanctions against Russia, against Iran, which are developing countries. Does that make it more tricky to impose the ESG criteria?
We used to say that the emerging countries had the worst ESG practices, so there is no interest in investing in the companies active in those parts of the world. That's wrong. Things are changing very rapidly. Everybody is aware, for example, of the heavy pollution affecting the cities in China. It means that the government in China has been adopting a very, very courageous plans to change the situation. So more stringent regulations to make sure that the companies now are at least applying some very strict ESG or at least environmental controls of their activities. So reducing the environmental impacts. The same for governance. Many move towards strengthening regulations. Here in the UK, you get the UK Stewardship Code that is really a reference in terms of the best practices for corporate governance. Many countries in the emerging world, like in Malaysia, have taken inspiration from the UK Stewardship Code to strengthen, to reinforce their corporate governance principles and those practices for companies. So it means that more and more companies active in the emerging world are now, just say, at least at the same level of practices of some European companies. So it means that now we can invest in some very interesting companies part of the world. The other part of your question is about some, just say, exclusions of some countries because of embargoes or similar decisions. It really depends on your clients. Some are willing to exclude some countries. You have been referring to Russia. Some others prefer to exclude other parts of the world, like the occupied territories, so between Israel and Palestine. So the strength of the ESG integration and approach is just to be a toolbox and to be flexible enough just to comply with your own clients' expectations.
It is a toolbox, but do you feel that institutions can increasingly influence the governance of companies and the policies of some regimes?
This is now the big, I think, trend of the market. Our clients, the institutional clients, are more and more pushy to promote engagement with companies. They are now wanting us, as the asset managers, to be an intermediary between them and the companies we do invest in. And why? It's because they want to get proven that the practices of the companies investing are in line now with all the regulations and all the standards worldwide. So engagement is a good way to first engage a dialogue with the companies and to help them notice what is called a best practice in their sphere of industry. Could be environmental or social or governance practices, and then to help them work on how to make progress to align to the best practices. And that's now the new duty of institutional investors. They feel they have this responsibility, and so engagement is very key, and that's the reason why the asset managers has been now developing some engagement capacities. But it's a new trend, it's a new development because it's, I would say, 2, 3 or 5 years old. When you engage with companies, you can collect ESG information about their practices, so you have a better understanding on how they perform, how they are managed, and it's a virtuous circle because the most you know about the companies, the most aware and informed your portfolio manager is, and thus the most, just say, return he can expect when he does a good and effective stock picking and investment, just a strategy for his portfolios.
Well, thank you, Jacky. I think you've made us all more aware of the ESG strategies too. Jacky Prudhomme from BNP Paribas Investment Partners, thank you very much.
Thank you, Yuri.